Unveiling Victorian secrets, the insane addiction to alcohol opium that haunts us today. In the dim, flickering gaslight of Victorian London, secrets lurked in every shadow. An entire society was enslaved to intoxicating vices that promised solace but led to despair. What if the very air whispered of opium dreams and clinking glasses? It was a world where gentlemen donned top hats and ladies in corsets danced gracefully while their minds crumbled under the haze of addiction. Rumors swirled like smoke, tales of laced opium lurking in the corners of opulent parlors and drink serving as a crutch for the souls of the suffering. What drove them there? The allure of escape weighed heavy, much more than the lines of society's strictures, tightening like a noose. Consider the opium dens, dark and hypnotic. Like breakfast of angels, the poppy seed's draw was irresistible. Patrons, lost in swirling fantasy, lay on silken cushions, oblivious to the world beyond those walls. The thick, sweet aroma mixed with the bitter tang of regret hung heavy in the air, capturing lost dreams that would never see the light. The melodious strains of violins played softly, a haunting echo of laughter, or was it a cry for help? Men would stumble out into the night, their sober selves fighting the fog of pleasure, hearts pounding in their chests, yet it wasn't just about the drugs. The blackened bottles of gin and rum offered a sinister comfort that crept into the lives of the unsuspecting. You could almost hear the collective gasp of society. Did you hear about Charles? He drank himself to death. Hearts raced as whispers of tragedies spread. The truth was, everyone knew someone caught in the throes of addiction. It was the unspoken bond that connected them, a grim camaraderie. But deep down, fear loomed like a shadow over the revelries. What if it was their turn next? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. What lay ahead was more sinister than anyone could imagine. Dark alleys and creaking floorboards held stories of betrayal and desperation. Was it merely an escape, or had real demons taken residence in their souls? The clock ticked, and the darkness seemed to thicken. Each tick of the second hand echoed in their hearts. Could they break free from this spiral of despair, or would they drown in their own madness? As the city hushed, an answer loomed just beyond the shadows, waiting to be discovered. The clock struck midnight, resonating through the cobblestone streets, a relentless reminder of time slipping away. As fog crept through the alleyways of London, it carried with it unspoken fears and whispered secrets. A figure emerged from the shadows, hunched and skittish, glancing over their shoulder with each tentative step. The street lamps flickered feebly, casting ghostly glows that danced ominously around them, amplifying the sense of impending doom. Meet Vivian, a lady once admired for her beauty and grace at lavish balls, now transformed into a specter of her former self. Her corseted gown, now dirt-stained and tattered, swayed with each hurried movement. Where she once glided with elegance, she now stumbled with desperation. Her heart ached not just from the weight of her newfound existence but from the memory of a life soaring high above the clouds, now reduced to the depths of despair. There it was, the dim entrance of an opium den, charred wood framing the darkened doorway. She hesitated. The sweet promise of oblivion beckoned her, echoing memories of blissful escape. Faces of friends, lost to the narcotic pull, flashed through her mind like fleeting ghosts. Just one more time, she thought, the words tumbling like leaves caught in the wind. Inside, the air thickened with stale smoke, a pungent mix that clawed at her throat. Laughter echoed, but it felt hollow, as if the very souls of those nearby were on the brink of shattering. She scanned the room, men sprawled across lavish cushions, their eyes glazed, lost in the delusion of euphoria. Women in extravagant dresses, some with smiles that barely masked the sorrow lurking behind. Each face told a story, but all shared a singular tragedy, a thirst for escape that would lead them deeper into the abyss. Vivian approached the counter, fingers trembling as she reached for a small vial. Just a drop. She whispered to herself, a futile attempt at reassurance. The dealer, a gaunt man with sunken eyes, watched her with keen interest. "You're back again," he hissed. It wasn't a question, but an accusation, one that sliced through her pretenses. Defiant, she grabbed the vial and took a backward step, hitting a wall of body temp rising, a man who smelled strongly of alcohol and regret. "You don't want to do this," he murmured, his breath heavy with intoxication. "It'll take you to places dark and twisted." Her heart raced. Was this a warning or a lure? Did he care, or was he merely a fellow victim of the demons that prowled their lives? Shadows shifted, and a figure emerged from the haze. Jasper, the man she once loved, now barely recognizable in his rags. His eyes were wild, sparking with a mix of desperation and fury. "Vivian!" he cried, reaching for her, his voice cracking like shattered glass. "What have you done to yourself?" She pulled away, feeling the chains of the past tighten around her. The world spun as reality collided with fantasy. Could she break free, or was she forever bound to this life of indulgent despair? Beneath the surface, deeper currents were at play. The rumors of laced opium began to swirl with urgency, suggestions of a dark conspiracy lurking behind this web of addiction. Whispers grew louder. It wasn't just escapism. There were sinister hands orchestrating this chaos. Anxiety clutched at her throat, an iron grip of dread suffocating her. But just as she thought she'd drown in the despair, a flicker of resolve ignited within. Could she reach for help, or would the shadows consume her entirely? A startling noise broke the air, a crash, then screams. The room erupted into chaos, bodies tumbling like leaves in a storm. Just as Vivian turned to flee, a piercing scream filled the night. The call surged through her, pulling her back into the fray. What awaited her on the other side of that frantic crowd? Freedom, or something far worse? And as she lost herself among the entangled bodies, one question lingered: who was the puppeteer pulling the strings? Could it be the very society that condemned them? Panic flared as the riot of sounds surged around her. Vivian's breaths quickened, each inhalation stinging her lungs. A cacophony of pleas, glass shattering, and muffled cries echoed beneath a sea of bodies, flowing and folding in chaotic waves. She glanced back for Jasper, but he had disappeared, swallowed by the spiraling madness. His voice, once a lifeline, now felt distant, lost somewhere in the roar of desperation. Her heart hammered against her ribcage, the vial growing heavier in her grasp. It was a tangible weight, embodying her fears, her regrets, everything. Clutching it tighter, she forced herself to ignore the thrill of the promise it contained. The impulse to succumb to darkness crept closer, wrapping around her mind like vines choking a weary tree. Then, from the thrashing crowd, a figure emerged, a woman, her face streaked with dirt and tears. Despite the disarray, there was a fire in her eyes, a fierce awareness that cut through the chaos. "This way!" she shouted, her voice slicing through the din. Vivian felt a pull, a raw instinct compelling her to follow. With uncertainty anchoring her steps, she stumbled after the woman, threading through the mass of outstretched arms and shattered dreams. Each jolt of movement seemed to bring a fresh wave of fear. The room felt like it was closing in, suffocating every inhaled breath. Thick with desperation, the woman led her through a narrow passage, the air cooler and sharper, a breath of fresh clarity amidst the gloom. They emerged into a dimly lit courtyard, the fog swirling around them, thick and heavy. The chaos faded to a dull roar behind them, but the tension still coiled within. "Who are you?" Vivian questioned, her voice shaky, uncertainty clawing at her throat. "I'm Nora," the woman replied, urgency etched in every line of her face. "Help is on the way, but we have to go now." "What do you mean, help?" Vivian felt something shift within her. The tumult in the den faded, devoured by the fear that loomed like a storm cloud above. "What's really going on in there?" Nora's eyes flickered, glancing toward the entrance. "Didn't you hear? They're lacing the opium. They're selling something darker." It's not just craving for escape anymore, it's poison, designed to keep us trapped. Vivian's stomach lurched at the revelation. The dark conspiracy began weaving itself into her thoughts. Was this why things had spiraled so rapidly? Chaos and despair flourishing in the shadows? A wave of realization struck her. The puppeteers were not just ghosts of lost souls, but cunning figures cloaked in business suits, their hands pulling at the strings of her loved ones' lives. Nora reached for Vivian, locking her gaze. We can't stay here. You need to decide now. Fight or fade away. The urgency in Nora's voice resonated within Vivian. A choice. Surprisingly, it felt liberating. The horror surrounding her fell away, replaced by the long-lost ember of resolve. But in the back of her mind, a chilling thought lingered. If they were lacing the drugs, what if they had been watching her all along? Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the opium den entrance. The shadows shifted, figures emerging, cloaked in fog, figures who looked for trouble, their eyes sharp as hawks. Vivian froze. Run! Nora screamed, launching herself away from the advancing threat. Vivian's heart raced. Would she run? Or confront the darkness head-on, even if it meant standing against those who sought to ruin them all? As she hesitated, caught between flight and fight, a sinking sensation curled tightly in her gut. Who would emerge victorious in this battle between shadow and light? The fear of the answers kept whirling in her mind, wrapping around her like the fog embracing the streets. Would she finally uncover the truth, or would she plunge deeper into the clutches of despair? In that moment, it became all too clear. The clock was ticking, and she had reached the edge of her decision. But beyond the chaos, as fear clashed with hope, one question rose above the din: who was in control of this twisted game? The fog felt like a living entity as Vivian tore after Nora, her legs pushing against the thick air that seemed to conspire against her. They darted through twisted alleyways, the distance between them and the chaos growing, yet the uncertainty clung to her like a wet blanket. The shouts behind them were a chorus of pursuit, each echo a reminder of what they were escaping. Where are we going? Vivian gasped, urgency coloring her words. The cool night looked deceptively peaceful, but she could feel the pulse of danger lurking just out of sight. Nora pointed to a narrow doorway, barely noticeable in the shadows. In here. Trust me. She urged, her voice a sharp whip in the thickening tension. Vivian obeyed, diving through the doorway just as hands reached for them from the fog, grappling at shadows that slipped away. Inside, they found themselves in a cramped storage room filled with dusty crates and remnants of abandoned lives. Breathing hard, in the dim light, Vivian looked at Nora, who pressed her back against the door, scanning for threats. They know we're here, she whispered, ghostly white under the flickering glow of a lone bulb. What if they find us? Vivian's heart raced, pounding like a war drum. What do we do? I have to save Jasper. I can't leave him behind. Nora's eyes softened but stayed firm. We can't go back, not yet. They're watching. We need a plan, a way to expose them. Vivian felt a fire ignite in her chest, igniting clarity amidst the shadows. Expose them? How? The idea struck her like lightning, a possibility amid the chaos. But doubts crept in. This feels too big. What if we're just pawns in their game? Nora took a step closer, urgency burning in her gaze. If we don't fight back, we're already lost. They've taken too much. This isn't just about drugs, it's about control. We can't let them win. Vivian stood taller, the weight of the vial suddenly feeling less crushing. Then we fight. But I want to leave Jasper behind. He's not just a pawn, he's everything. With resolution fueling her, she searched the room, looking for anything that could be of use. A few old supplies lay scattered around, broken glass, crumpled papers, and the old wooden crates that could make a fortress or a trap. If they needed anything, they might find tools to uncover the truth hidden deeply in the lies. Suddenly, a heavy thud jolted the air. The door rattled violently, and a menacing laugh sliced through the darkness. Hiding 1T save you. The voice was sharp, mocking, a predator stalking its prey. Vivian felt her breath catch as fear seeped into her bones. They had found them. Hide. Nora hissed, pushing Vivian behind a crate with practiced speed. The weight of the moment pressed down on her, heart pounding in cadence with the footsteps approaching. Heavy silhouettes drifted into the room, their features distorted in the low light. The laughter echoed again, sending dread curling in Vivian's stomach. It's time to play, the lead figure taunted. We're all in the same game now unless you choose to end it. Vivian's eyes narrowed. The bitter realization struck her hard, they were not just players but the gatekeepers of this twisted game. Then, it came back to her, the vial, the darkness. Knowledge was power, but it came with a cost. The figures gestured, somber, as the room filled with their cold menace. You really think you can expose us? The leader stepped closer, eyes glinting like predatory stars. Vivian's heart raced. Could they turn the tables? Would she dare to challenge the monstrous forces controlling their lives? She felt Nora's hand tighten around her wrist, an anchor in the swirling storm. With every fiber of her being, she knew this moment would define everything. And in the silence that followed, as the shadows loomed, one thought surged above the chaos. What if the truth they sought was as dangerous as the lies they lived? Before she could react, Nora pulled her away from the eerie laughter and looming threats. They had to move. But where? And what awaited them on the dark path ahead? The realization was chilling. It was not just about survival anymore. Everything was about to change. Would they plunge deeper into the truth, or would they emerge to battle the puppeteers pulling the strings? The air felt thick with dread as they crouched behind the crate, their breaths shallow and measured like a ticking clock in the silence. Vivian's heart thundered in her chest, drowning out the mocking laughter that still echoed in her ears. She could barely think, panic creeping in like the fog outside. Nora's grip tightened, pulling Vivian closer. This way, she breathed, her voice barely more than a whisper. They had to find an escape route, and quickly. But where would they go? Every door felt like it led to more danger. Outside, the footsteps grew louder, the shadows writhing, stalking them like wolves hunting their prey. They must have searched this place before, Nora said, eyes darting nervously. We can use the back exit. Vivian nodded, her mind racing. The weight of the vial still gnawed at her thoughts. It felt precious, vital, and incredibly dangerous. What if exposing the truth meant leveraging that vial against them? But how? Could they truly use it to fight back? Are you ready? Nora whispered, peering out from behind the crate. Vivian took a deep breath, steeling herself. Let us do it. They crept back toward the faint light filtering through a crack at the rear of the room. Pushing aside an old crate, Nora found a door rusty and barely hanging on its hinges. With a gentle nudge, it creaked open, revealing a dark narrow hallway stretching before them. The girls' hearts pounded in unison as they slipped through, the echo of the door's groan swallowed by the desolation around them. The hallway twisted, its walls lined with peeling wallpaper and grime, like the abandoned memories of a once vibrant place. Stay low, Nora murmured, leading the way. Vivian's senses sharpened, the oppressive weight of danger hung thick in the air. As they moved deeper into the belly of the building, the faint sound of voices surfaced, climbing and cascading like waves crashing in the distance. The girls paused, exchanging anxious glances. Did you hear that? Vivian whispered, anxiety pooling in her stomach. Yes, Nora replied, her brow furrowed in concentration. We need to be quick. The voices grew closer, seeped in malice and twisted anticipation. They were out there, waiting, playing their game. Vivian felt the bile rise in her throat as a bead of sweat dripped down her spine. Rushing along the corridor, they rounded a corner and skidded to a halt. Another door beckoned, this one sturdier, almost regal in its decay. With no time to lose, Nora gripped the doorknob and pushed it open, inwardly praying this would lead to freedom. Beyond the door spread a large, dimly lit room filled with overstuffed chairs and a long bar lined with dark bottles. The scent of stale alcohol permeated the air. Vivian's eyes widened. The tavern atmosphere felt oddly familiar yet tainted, a strange reflection of their world outside. "Look," Nora gasped, pointing toward two figures hunched over the bar, voices dripping with conspiratorial chatter. "That's them. They're discussing the shipment." "Shipment?" Vivian's heart dropped. What if this was about the drugs? About Jasper? Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the tavern, causing the old chandelier to sway ominously. The figures turned abruptly, narrowing their eyes, as if sensing the intrusion. Panic surged in Vivian's chest. "They see us." She wanted to run, but dread kept her frozen. Nora's steel determination pulled her back to purpose. "We can't turn away now. They hold the answers." Vivian swallowed her fear. They didn't just need to hear, they had to act. But as the shadows deepened around them, she couldn't shake the feeling that the truth could shatter everything they had fought for. As the two men pushed back from the bar with a menacing swagger, Vivian and Nora exchanged one last glance, charged with adrenaline. The next moments would test everything. Would they risk it all for the truth, or would fear bind them to silence once again? They took a step forward, ready to confront the darkness. But as the figures loomed closer, Vivian realized they were not just going to uncover the truth, they were about to enter the eye of the storm. What awaited them in that dimly lit room? Would they emerge with the answers they desperately sought, or fall deeper into the web of deception? The figures slowly approached, their faces coming into focus like a reel of film being unwound in the dim light. One was a burly man with tattoos snaking up his arms, the other thin and wiry, his sharp features glowing with an unsettling smile. Vivian felt a chill creep up her spine. "Guess we have company," the tattooed man said, his voice gravelly yet smooth, dripping with arrogance. His eyes scanned the room, settling on Vivian and Nora, who stood paralyzed at the entrance. Didn't he expect fresh faces tonight? Vivian's heart raced. Did they still have a chance? Something deep inside her stirred a willingness to stand her ground. "We're not here for trouble," she ventured, surprising even herself with the strength of her voice. "Oh, but that's exactly what you've brought," the wiry man sneered, closing the distance. He beckoned with a finger, like a puppeteer awakening his marionettes. "What's this about a shipment? You know some things, don't you?" Nora sneaked a glance at Vivian, and in that split second, words hung thick between them, short and urgent. "We play the game," she mouthed. Vivian nodded. "What if we do?" she asked slowly, trying to gauge their intentions. "Tell us what you're shipping, and maybe we can help." The tattooed man chuckled, the sound cold and harsh. "Help? These two want to play big girls," he barked to his companion, who snickered in response. "Let us entertain our guests, then," the wiry man said, moving to lean against the bar, adopting a casual stance, though his eyes drilled into Vivian like daggers. "How about a drink? Or would that be too tempting for you?" Vivian felt her throat dry up. The offer hung heavy, weaving between dread and curiosity. She had heard whispers of the addiction that hollowed lives, both opium and alcohol ravaging the city like a dark fog. But she needed information. They needed to know what was at stake. "What's in those shipments?" Nora pressed, her voice gaining a steel edge. "People are suffering, families are being torn apart." The men exchanged glances, and an unsettling thrill sparked between them. "Why do you care?" The tattooed man shot back, lips curling as if he were mocking a child's naive idealism. "As long as the money rolls in, right? What does it matter?" "It matters because," Vivian stepped forward, feeling an unfamiliar surge of courage. "We see the pain. We feel it every day." The men stilled. For a moment, surprise flickered in their eyes, but it was quickly replaced by something darker. The wiry man leaned back, feigning contemplation. "Interesting theory. But why should we let you in on our secrets?" Vivian felt the weight of her next words. They had to tip the balance. Because we know you're hiding something. Something that could destroy you. Something like this. She revealed the vial, cradling it like a grenade. The atmosphere in the room shifted, tension thick as smoke curling from a fire. The tattooed man's demeanor changed, malice crept into his gaze. Where did you get that? Nora squeezed Vivian's arm. You need to run, she whispered, her eyes darting to the door. But it was too late. The men surged forward, closing the distance too fast for comfort. Vivian's heart thundered as adrenaline coursed through her. The secrets they'd hoped to uncover were now dancing just out of reach, every second counting down to a countdown. She could feel gut-punching her senses. Now, don't be hasty, the wiry man warned, his voice low and dripping with menace. You wouldn't want to see what happens when we get angry. Vivian's breath caught, panic rising. They had to decide. Would they play their cards close, hoping to use the vial as leverage, or make a desperate dash for freedom, risking everything? Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness, leaving only whispers woven with the fabric of uncertainty. Run! Nora shouted, launching toward the door, pulling Vivian with her. But in the chaos, a single question blasted through Vivian's mind. Had they awakened something they couldn't put back to sleep? As they stumbled into the corridor, the laughter of their pursuers echoed ominously behind them. How far could they run before the truth caught up with them? Vivian's heart raced, a frantic drum beating against her ribs. The corridor stretched out ahead, dark and foreboding, yet they couldn't afford to hesitate. Angled shadows danced along the walls, distorting the familiar into something sinister. Just footsteps behind them, the laughter of the tattooed man and his companion cut through the tension, heated and mocking. Don't stop. Don't look back. Nora's voice was a fierce whisper, urgency pulling Vivian along as they tore down the hallway. The door loomed ahead like a glimmer of hope. Where are we going? Vivian gasped, her legs burning with exertion. Anywhere but here, was Nora's breathless reply. We need to figure out our next move. They burst through the door, slamming it shut behind them. The air outside was cooler, a stark contrast to the oppressive heat of the bar. They stood in a narrow alleyway, dirty and littered with debris, where the flicker of dim streetlights barely lit their surroundings. Do you think they saw us? Vivian's voice trembled, a chill running through her at the realization of how close danger had come. Nora shook her head, peering past the end of the alley. They'll come after us. We need to hide fast. In the adjacent alley, a loading dock loomed with towering stacks of crates. It was their only option. Pulling Vivian along, Nora darted toward the containers, slipping behind the first pile just as a heavy footfall echoed behind them. Do you think they know where we went? Vivian whispered, pushing her back against the cold steel, her heartbeat thrumming in her ears like a warning bell. Let us hope not. Nora shifted closer, her breath warm against Vivian's ear. What do we do now? We can't stay here forever. Think, Nora. The weight of desperation pressed down on her. We have to come up with a plan. We can't let them know we have the vial. Nora's eyes flashed with understanding. We have to use it against them. If they come after us, we leverage it. Make them think they need it or that we can expose them. That's a risk, Vivian cautioned, her throat tightening with the possibility of the confrontation. What if they don't buy it? Then we have to be ready to fight, Nora said, determination flaring in her gaze. Just then, a chilling shout echoed through the alley. You think you can hide? The wiry man's voice sliced through the night, followed by the familiar heavy footfalls of their pursuers. Vivian's pulse quickened. They had seconds to decide. Would they stay put and risk capture, or confront the men head-on with the vial as their last bargaining chip? We can't let them catch us, she said firmly, the weight of the vial resting heavily in her pocket. Let us create a diversion. Get their attention away from us. Just like a smokescreen. Nora nodded, her mind racing. We can use the noise from those crates. If we can knock one over, it might buy us a few more seconds. Taking a deep breath, they both peeked around their hiding spot. The wiry man was coming closer, grinning wickedly. Come out, wherever you are." Without time to weigh the consequences, Vivian grabbed a rusted pipe from the ground and clutched it tightly, a lifeline in the chaos. With a swift nod, she and Nora lunged toward a stack of crates, shoving one hard with all their might. The crash echoed loudly, a deafening roar that reverberated through the alley. Vivian's heart sank as they instinctively ducked back behind their hiding spot, adrenaline surging through their veins as they prepared for the fight of their lives. "Ready yourself," Nora whispered fiercely. But just as they thought they found a moment to breathe, the sounds of approaching footsteps halted suddenly. An uneasy silence fell over the alley, thick and suffocating. Where did they go? The wiry man's voice sliced through the tension with an edge of confusion, sending icy fingers skittering down Vivian's back. Vivian exchanged a quick glance with Nora. Whatever happened next would be pivotal. Would they reveal themselves, or stay hidden and wait for an opening? The choice hung in the air, a tightrope strung between desperation and opportunity. They would have to act. There was no other option left, but were they ready for the wrath that awaited them? As the seconds ticked away, Vivian felt an unsettling truth creep into her mind. Maybe they had awakened something far darker than they had imagined. Something that wouldn't let them go without a fight. A loud crash echoed loudly against the alley walls, and Vivian's heart felt like it was stuck in her throat. Every shadow now seemed to ripple, each sound exaggerated. The silence that followed was thick enough to smother them. Nora's grip on her arm tightened. "Do you hear that?" she whispered, her eyes wide. Vivian nodded, straining to listen. Footsteps resumed, but they were different now, slower, deliberate. "They're searching for us," she muttered, panic swirling inside her. If the tattooed man and his companion were closing in, every second mattered. The vial nestled in her pocket suddenly felt heavier, like a stone ready to drag her under. There was no way out but through. "Follow my lead," Nora said, her voice calmer than Vivian felt. "We'll dash to the other end. The street should be bright, we can lose them in the crowd." "Right," Vivian whispered back, determined but terrified. Taking a deep breath, they counted silently to 3. At that moment, the loud laughter of their pursuers rang out in the alley, mixed with their footsteps, like a predator circling its prey. "Now!" Nora hissed. They leapt from their hiding place, darting toward the alley's exit. The world outside the stacked crates opened wide, the faint glow of the streetlights offering a beacon of hope. But just as they reached the mouth of the alley, Vivian stumbled, nearly losing her footing. "Nora! Wait!" she screamed, catching her breath as she looked back towards the sound. But the tattooed man stood in the way, a sinister smile stretching across his face. "Going somewhere, lovely?" he taunted. Instinct told Vivian to turn and run, but something held her in place. "What do you want from us?" she shouted, defiance overriding her fear. The man's laughter chilled her. "Oh, the question is more what we want from that little vial of yours." He motioned toward his friend, whose hand twitched nervously at his belt. Nora grabbed Vivian's arm, pulling her back. This is not the time to confront him. They turned to race down the street when Vivian remembered their plan. "No. We can't just run." She hesitated, weighing the vial's significance in her mind. "If they want it, let us use it." Nora's eyes flared with alarm. "Vivian, we're not ready." "Then show them we are." Vivian shouted, her heart pounding with determination. She reached inside her pocket, feeling the cool glass against her fingertips, and pulled it out. "Careful," Nora warned. The men were closing, their confidence growing. The wiry man smirked. "What will you do with that? Poison yourselves? Or maybe it will work on you," Vivian retorted, holding up the vial as if it were a weapon. "You think we're going to let you take this? You have no idea what it contains." That moment of bravado caught them off guard. The wiry man stepped back, his brow furrowing as he exchanged uncertain glances with his companion. Vivian's mind raced. Would this bluff work? She prayed it would buy them time. Is that true? The tattooed man asked, skepticism lacing his tone. Or are you just trying to bluff us? Nora shot her a glance, a silent question. What now? The silence grew, heavy and expectant. Vivian could feel the weight of every decision coiling taut around her, and then it struck her, an idea fueled by adrenaline, a desperate gamble. I'll destroy it, she yelled, raising the vial above her head. One drop, and this whole city could go up in flames. Don't be stupid, Nora cried out, her voice a mix of fear and urgency. Their pursuers exchanged looks of shock, then anger. The tattooed man's expression twisted wickedly. You think you can threaten us? You have no idea who you're dealing with. Then come and take it, Vivian shouted, her heart racing in her chest. Suddenly, the alley erupted with movement. The tattooed man lunged forward, fists clenched, while Nora pulled Vivian back behind her. Run! Vivian swung the vial toward the ground, ready to smash it if it came to that. But the moment they made their move, a piercing siren blared in the distance, cutting through the chaos like a knife. Police! Vivian gasped, the weight of alarm crashing against her. Let us go, Nora yelled, grabbing Vivian's wrist and leading her down a side street to as they ran. The realization hit hard. What awaited them wasn't just the threat of their pursuers. They had woken the night, and it was hungry for retribution. But in that moment of escape, they couldn't shake the feeling that something far worse than they could imagine was now after them, something hidden just beyond the shadows. With dread pooling in her gut, Vivian held the vial tighter, knowing it held secrets they hadn't even begun to uncover. And as they vanished into the night, one question loomed large in her mind: who else was hunting for the vial, and what darkness did it truly awaken? The streets hummed with urgency. Breathless, they zigzagged through the dimly lit side alleys, away from the chaos they had left behind. Vivian's heart pounded not just from fear, but from adrenaline coursing through her veins as if she could outrun her own dread. Did you see his face? Nora gasped, trying to catch her breath while glancing back as if expecting the tattooed man to leap from the shadows at any moment. He didn't believe you. Vivian gripped the vial tightly, knuckles white. Maybe that's the only thing that kept us alive. The words spilled from her lips, meant to sound stronger than she felt. But doubt gnawed at her. What if the bluff crumbled? What if they weren't faster than their pursuers? They darted into an open square, the glow of neon signs illuminating the darkness. Pedestrians milled about, oblivious to the looming danger. Nora jerked Vivian's arm, pulling her toward a narrow passage between two buildings. We need to lay low. Inside the passage, cool air enveloped them. The sounds of the street faded, replaced by the ominous silence of the alley. Vivian leaned against the rough brick wall, trying to steady herself. What if they found us? Then we find a way to fight back, Nora said fiercely, her voice laced with unshed panic. We can't let them take the vial. Vivian's pulse quickened as the reality of their situation settled on her. The vial wasn't just a means of protection, it was the only thread tying them to answers about a world they barely understood. What the hell is in that vial anyway? Nora asked, her voice dropping to a whisper. Do you think it really could destroy everything? I don't know, Vivian admitted, slowly running her fingers along the smooth glass. But I can't shake the feeling it's dangerous. And not just to them. Just then, a noise shattered the quiet footsteps echoing in the distance. Their hearts raced as they exchanged wide-eyed glances. Come on, Nora hissed, tugging on Vivian's arm again. We can't stay here. They crept deeper into the passage, shadows swallowing them whole. The footsteps grew louder, and with them, a sense of dread coiled around Vivian's chest. Think. They can't know what's inside, Nora murmured, glancing back. We can use this to our advantage. What's our advantage? Vivian shot back, emotions spilling out. We're outnumbered and on the run. Nora's expression softened, but determination hardened her gaze. We have something they want. If we can get to the safe house. The safe house? Vivian interrupted. And then what? You think we just wait around for someone to save us? Vivian, we need a plan. Larry will know what to do. Nora's confidence wavered as they moved toward the other end of the passage. Was it really safe? Or just another trap waiting to ensnare them? Footsteps again, closer this time. Vivian felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand on end. She held the vial as if it were a ticking time bomb. Then they saw the figures edged in the light spilling from the street. It was the tattooed man and his wiry friend, sweeping through the square. There they are. The wiry man shouted, pointing. Before Vivian could think, instinct kicked in. She pulled back the vial, aiming its glass neck toward the ground. Stay back! She screamed, her voice echoing against the walls. But just as she prepared to shatter it, Nora lunged, pushing her forward. We have to run. They dashed toward the end of the passage, hoping to find another way out, their hearts in their throats. The figures chased after them, and the night grew colder, shadows swallowing the last remnants of their escape. They turned a corner and bolted into another street, only to come face to face with a group of people gathered around a flickering streetlight. Vivian's mind raced. What now? Blend in. Nora urged as they slipped into the crowd like ghosts among the living. But the sensation of being hunted clung to them, unsettling and relentless. And through the mixture of confused faces, they couldn't ignore the growing awareness that the city was turning against them. Whispers crawled through the air. There was no safety, no sanctuary. The question remained, how long could they elude their pursuers? What dark secrets lurked in the shadows, waiting for the moment to pounce? With the crowd closing around them, Vivian glanced back just in time to see the tattooed man scanning the faces, hungry for recognition. The hunt was far from over, and somewhere beneath the chaos, hidden truths lurked, waiting to usher in a darkness they were only beginning to comprehend. What unfathomable depths did the vial hold, and who would ultimately claim its power? The night felt like it was closing in on Vivian and Nora, a thick blanket of shadows wrapping tighter with each deceptive twist and turn. They felt the weight of their decisions heavy on their shoulders as they navigated the bustling streets, their eyes darting nervously over the ocean of unfamiliar faces. The men in pursuit were not just after them, they were after knowledge too, the sort that could manipulate lives, break spirits, and corrupt souls. Where do we go from here? Vivian whispered, her voice trembling slightly as she clutched the vial like a lifeline. Each heartbeat drummed in her ears, impossibly loud in the sea of murmurs that surrounded them. Nora glanced around, her eyes darting toward every shadow. There's a safe house, a network helping people like us, but it's not easy to find, she replied, urgency airing in her voice. We have to move quickly. If they catch up. She bit her lip, unwilling to complete the thought. Fear gnawed at Vivian's insides. They had come too far to let the dark forces behind this intricate maelstrom claim them without a fight. Let us go, she said, determination sharpening her voice. We have to find it before they do. With quickened steps, they dashed through alleyways and across streets, narrowing their focus on the goal that lay just beyond reach. Every footfall echoed the urgency coursing through them, a hum of adrenaline resonating louder than dread. After what felt like an eternity of weaving through the chaos, they stumbled upon the entrance. A narrow, unmarked door stood slightly ajar, the warmth of dim light spilling onto the cobblestones like a beacon. Hard in her throat, Vivian turned to Nora. This is it, right? Nora nodded, her eyes wide with both hope and anxiety. They slipped inside, the atmosphere instantly shifting. Here, the air was filled with palpable tension rather than panic. A few individuals sat at folding tables, their faces illuminated by flickering lanterns, whispering in hushed tones. Vivian sensed they were not just gathering, they were plotting. Vivian. Nora. A gravelly voice broke through the chatter, and an older man rushed toward them. It was Larry, a figure of resilience among the fragmented lives that came seeking refuge. His eyes scanned them, concern etched in his features. "You're safe now." "What happened?" "We were ambushed," Nora gasped, urgency bubbling over. As they recounted their harrowing tale, Vivian noticed a shift among the others. Their faces hardened, shadows deepening with the weight of the reality being unveiled. "The men are after this," she said, pulling the vial from her pocket. Silence fell. One of the men at the table leaned forward, his expression grave. "You need to understand, that vial holds power. They will stop at nothing to get it back." A chill ran down Vivian's spine. "Then we need to use it to fight back," she said, steeling herself. "I can't stand by and let them hurt anyone else." Larry's gaze softened, but he shook his head. "You don't know what's inside. It's not just about survival anymore, it's about control." "I know what I'm willing to fight for," Vivian replied fiercely, a fire sparking within. "I won't let them take another life." That resolve shifted the mood in the room, stitching together a collective determination. They gathered around the table, sharing stories of loss, of lives shattered by the conspirators' poisonous vices. Each shared story only fueled Vivian's resolve further, but just as hope began to swell, the sound of distant footsteps echoed through the hall. The men were close. Panic threatened to surface again, but Larry's voice rang out with authority. "Together, we can stand our ground. Spread the word that we will expose them. It's time to turn the tide." Vivian and Nora exchanged glances filled with a mixture of fear and conviction. They had awakened a storm, and now it was time to unleash it. "Let us do this," Vivian whispered, gripping the vial tightly again, its glass reflecting their determination like a mirror. As they prepared to face whatever darkness awaited them, a strange sense of liberation washed over them both. They would not be pawns any longer. The tide was turning, and they stood at the helm, the door pushed open, and the lantern light flooded out into the night, a glowing symbol of rebellion. Braver than before, they stepped outside, ready to face their fate. "Let the city tremble," Vivian declared, her voice fierce against the night, and behind her, a chorus of voices joined in, intertwining their fates as they pressed forward toward the dawning battle with shadows that wouldn't go quietly. This was no longer just about survival or escape, this was their fight for hope. Now, here's where you come in. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next chapter full of exclusive revelations and adventures. Smash that like button now to show your support and fuel the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. Tell us what you think will happen next. And for the love of all that's narrative, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this thrilling conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to help us spread the word. Your voice matters. Together, we can uncover more secrets.